Welcome back to the news from Kazakhstan. We are bringing you the latest updates. I'm Marina Kim and here are the headlines. Human rights activist Talas Agimbayev filed a lawsuit against the leader of the nation, Nursultan Nazarbayev. Financial police and environment protection agencies accuse foreign mining companies of evading taxes and damaging local nature. Famous conductor Maria Stravinsky visits Almaty. Today he will perform together with the state orchestra during the second charity ball. Six countries, including Kazakhstan, declined the invitation to attend the Nobel Peace Prize award ceremony in Oslo on December 10th. Citing the statement of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, Reuters reported that Kazakhstan has joined Russia, Cuba, Morocco, Iraq and China. Interestingly, this spring Kazakhstan's President Nursultan Nazarbayev was also nominated for the Peace Prize by the World Assembly of Turkic Peoples.
The achievements of the leader of the nation include the renunciation of nuclear weapons and the policy for tolerance. However, the jury gave a preference to the Chinese human rights defender Liu Xiaobao for his continuous non-violent struggle for fundamental human rights in China. At the moment, Liu Xiaobao is serving an 11-year prison sentence for attempting to overthrow the state system. Chinese authorities have already said the awarding of the Peace Prize to the activist is a big mistake.
The Nobel Peace Prize became the subject of political speculation, said on Friday advisor to Kazakh President Yermuhamet Yertezbayev in his interview to the news agency Kaztag. Supposedly, the US puts pressure on Norway, and that is why Russia and other countries declined their participation in the ceremony this year. Yertezbayev believes the award winner should be a person of global importance, whereas the activities of the Chinese dissident are not noted anywhere beyond his homeland. Kazakhstan's Foreign Affairs Ministry explained on Friday that Kazakh diplomats will not attend the ceremony due to their busy schedule. In other news, Hillary Clinton will replace President Barack Obama as the head of the US delegation at the upcoming OSCE summit in Astana.
Robert O. Blake, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State, has once again confirmed that Hillary Clinton, U.S. Secretary of State, will arrive in Kazakhstan instead of President Barack Obama. Speaking before the House of Foreign Affairs Committee, Blake said, quote, "As chairman in office of the OSCE, Kazakhstan is about to host the first OSCE summit in 11 years in Astana on December 1st and 2nd, the first ever in Central Asia." According to the latest data from the Kazakh Foreign Affairs Ministry, 61 states out of 67 invited have confirmed their participation in the event.
A prominent human rights activist, Talas Agimbayev, filed a lawsuit against the leader of the nation, Nursultan Nazarbayev. Agimbayev wants the president to tell the court why he ignores written appeals, thereby violating the laws of Kazakhstan. In the last year, the activist sent numerous complaints to the presidential administration, all of which were ignored. Interestingly, by launching this process, Agimbayev also violates the recently adopted law on the leader of the nation.
Human rights activist Talas Agimbayev claims the current president is a perpetrator. He accuses Nursultan Nazarbayev of inaction, saying the head of state didn't answer any of his official inquiries. For an entire year, Agimbayev sent petitions to the president's administration, and having received no answer, he finally appealed to the Yesil court of Astana. We should be equal before the law, regardless of whether he is a president or not. In fact, his level of responsibility should be higher than anyone else's. The activist says the inaction of the president prevents to break the deadlock in the case of real estate investor Janar Rustemova. Apparently, Kazhimkhan Masimov, the father of the Kazakh prime minister, promised her to build a house in Shymkent cottage area. A part of the money, $200,000, was paid in advance, and now the woman is waiting for housing for already 3 years. Last year we met in Shymkent face-to-face, and he said that he knows nothing about my money and that I should deal with the problem on my own. Rustemova says that several dozen people found themselves in a similar situation. Those who came to Astana to find justice managed to recover some of the money. Earlier this year, entrepreneur Gulzanat Abylova also asked to pay her back and threatened to jump off a tower crane if nothing was done. Eventually the money was paid, although Masimov still denies any involvement with the matter. The woman wanted to get money through provocations and blackmail. Perhaps she already used these methods before. All of the documents she has are fakes. It seems that someone is behind all of this. The court will consider the actions of Talas Agimbayev in the upcoming month. In the meantime, the sides can still settle the case peacefully, though it is not clear whether the president's administration will go for it.
The movement Democratic Choice of Kazakhstan was formed 9 years ago, giving the political system a promise of changes and new ideas. Initially, the movement united the most progressive politicians and businessmen who spoke of the necessity for political reforms and offered the government specific programs. However, Nazarbayev's policies led to pressure and persecution of the movement's founders, as well as its subsequent split into Party Akjol and remaining Democratic Choice of Kazakhstan, represented by Galimjan Zhikyanov and Mukhtar Ablyazov. Currently, the legacy of the movement lives in the ideology of the unregistered party Alga.
Уважаемые сограждане, сегодня мы объявляем.
Dear fellow citizens, today we announce the creation of the movement Democratic Choice of Kazakhstan, which aims to protect democratic values, people's rights and freedoms.
Защиту демократических ценностей, защиту прав и свобод наших граждан.
As with any undertakings, the goals were noble. First of all, the new opposition forces proposed 5 directions of political reforms, declaring that Nazarbayev's favorite thesis, economy first then politics, doesn't work. Among others, proposals included changing into a parliamentary republic, introducing elections for local administrators and judges, as well as ensuring the freedom of press. The enthusiasm was quickly curbed by the current regime, coupled with the split within the movement, which was actually quite predictable, says the organization co-founder Bulat Abilov. We didn't know each other well. We were a people gathered together for the first time. Some of the founders met each other only a couple of times before. My approach was not to rush and discuss everything instead of making hasty decisions. The alliance lasted only 3 months. In February 2002, Abilov, Zhandosov and Baymenov set up their own party Akjol with more liberal views towards the authorities. Other leaders of the movement were criminally persecuted, which placed Zhikyanov and Ablyazov behind bars. The former brothers-in-arms now have different opinions on why the organization didn't survive. If the movement was not split back then, perhaps we would be living in a very different country now.
то вполне возможно, что мы бы жили с вами в немножко другом Казахстане.
Some were bought by Nazarbayev, others intimidated. In some way, these people renounced their beliefs or simply betrayed the idea, frankly speaking. Not all truths about the movement have been revealed yet by each of its key members. All of them have their own angles why they do talk about it. At the moment, unregistered party Alga is considered the successor of the Democratic Choice of Kazakhstan. It represents the same ideas and similar methods with the additional ambition of presidency. In the last 9 years, the party worked officially for only 5 months. Even despite the lack of registration and loss of several prominent politicians, the organization still represents a serious threat for the regime.
The financial police suspects international consortium AGIP of fraud. The company is developing the world's largest oil and gas field, Kashagan, located in Kazakhstan. Several other foreign oil companies are charged with tax evasion and even withdrawal of capital from the country. In the meantime, the cabinet tightens the responsibility of subsoil users for environmental crimes. These and other statements were made on Friday in Astana, which hosted talks on political and legal aspects of subsoil use in Kazakhstan.
The Environment Protection Agency threatened the heads of oil companies with criminal prosecution. On Friday, Environment Minister Nurgali Ashimov said that multi-million fines are just too lenient of the penalty. Instead, he has prepared a bill and amendments to the criminal code which should improve environmental responsibility. Do not play with environmental programs, transferring or postponing them. No matter which country you represent, we will be able to reach, and you will not escape the responsibility. Tax inspection and financial police officials also discussed violations of subsoil use, revealing that several criminal cases were instigated against some oil companies. One of the targets is the head of the CNPC Aktube Munaygas. The company is accused of tax evasion in the amount of over $90 million. Earlier this year, banker Mukhtar Ablyazov publicized the information of the illegal sale of state shares of CNPC Aktube Munaygas to the Chinese CNPC. However, the statements of the exiled politician were not taken into account. In the meantime, another transnational giant Agip is suspected in fraud. The law enforcement believe the foreign exploit the largest oil and gas field Kashagan with violations. Agip has calculated twice the same cost of construction and installation works at the Bolashak oil and gas treatment plant for the amount of $110 million, which subsequently were planned to be reimbursed through the volumes of extracted oil and gas. The financial police revealed some of the ways used by oil companies to withdraw funds from the country. However, the names of specific people and companies were not given. In the meantime, some information over the sensational profits in Kazakhstan oil and gas sector can be found on the internet. The country makes $24 billion a year with a per capita income of $11,400.
Participants of the 5th Forum of the Perfect Business Association are trying to define the concept of competitiveness in Kazakhstan. The issues reviewed include the relation of the customs union to the national security, the effective use of the country's transit location, and the real understanding of Kazakhstan's management.
How to make domestic goods as recognizable as those with the label Made in China. The question was discussed on Friday by businessmen, scientists and analysts. Svetlana Romanovskaya, the president of the Association of Perfect Business, believes the crisis made all world producers equal. She calls all Kazakh entrepreneurs to seriously think about the future and says they now have the chance to reach new development heights which could bring them to the global market. The customs union should help in their endeavor. By opening borders, we're dealing with the national security. Thus, if our relations with Belarus or Russia will deteriorate tomorrow and we will have to close the borders, we'll face a situation when we have nothing to produce and no one to do so. Nature does abhor a vacuum. Experts say the current education system is one of the main problems for the underdevelopment of Kazakhstan's business. The Soviet heritage is lost by now, and nothing was offered by the education ministry instead. Due to that, the country completely lost a competitive edge, since a fake diploma with honors can hardly prove anything in harsh market conditions. Specialists feel any real success in the area can be achieved no sooner than in 20 years. It's not a secret that people who can pay now get the higher education. This is wrong. It is only an economic principle of education, but it doesn't mean that paying money should mean an automatic admission. It would be better if this was different. The number of available places in universities is limited, and we just don't want to lose the best. Obviously, the competitiveness of the brand Made in Kazakhstan cannot be reached without good management. Observers say that during its independence, Kazakhstan failed to establish a system of its own national management, like in developed countries. There, everything is based on individual ethnic characteristics in the vein of American individualism or Japanese clan structure. Unfortunately, none of these systems is fitting for the multinational Kazakhstan. Kazakhs were always characterized by a nomadic lifestyle. We always lived in kins, thus we must implement it in management, like the Japanese and their clan principles. If we meet these three principles, we will see the label Made in Kazakhstan becoming a world brand. All proposals made at the forum require many years of development and implementation, said participants of the event. That is why experts believe that the state should already use what it has, the good geographic location. For instance, Belarus, Kazakhstan's customs union partner, covers up to 30% of its budget through its transit infrastructure. The transportation system built in Kazakhstan in Soviet times is useless now for the addressing of transboundary issues. Perhaps changing that will allow the country to pave the way for the competitive production.